You are Locked On Clippers Postcast, part of Locked On Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. You can also listen to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. I am Pete Fox. What we do here on the Postcast is a post-game immediate reaction to the Clippers game. And today, a 1 o'clock start in LA at Crypto.com against the Chicago Bulls. Clippers come out on top with a 112-102 win. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Again, I'm Pete Fox, covering sports in LA as a reporter and a host since 2007 for both ESPN Radio and NBC Sports Radio. Yet another tale of two halves for the Clippers. I guess could be worse, when they play like, I don't want to say garbage, but when they play frustratingly in the first half and come out with a different mindset in the second half, it feels pretty good. So from that perspective, I don't have a ton to complain about other than I'm tired of watching these garbage first quarters. Would it be too much to ask to come out and get a lead in the first quarter just so we can not be frustrated right out of the gate? That's all I ask, really. And I mean, there's so many good things to talk about today. There's definitely more good than bad, right? But I'm just tired of this just run down, listless, lackadaisical first quarter all the time where the Clippers don't seem to care. The other team comes out and gets confidence, and then they have to dig their way out of a hole. Now, all that being said, maybe that's their game plan. Maybe that's their MO, Let them get punch drunk, leave them with a false sense of security after the first quarter, something to that effect. Oh, you think you got it going, do you? You think you're in control now? Huh? Well, watch this. I mean, it was really the first half. Things got a little bit better in the second half, but they still trailed by 11 at the break, 57-46. It was, there was a lot of things that were frustrating that were going on with the Clippers. Paul George didn't get going right away. Fortunately, he did by the end of the game. And maybe, again, I said this a couple days ago or 3 days ago, maybe I'm just too picky. Maybe I'm too demanding and I want perfection too much. I do understand that it is hard to attain, but I don't think a team this good should have this big a problem in the first quarter. There's something about this guarding the perimeter against mediocre three-point shooting teams that the Clippers are not doing well, right? They need to do a better job guarding the perimeter against these teams that come out and are just halfway decent three-point shooting teams. The Clippers, I believe, are the, where did I write that down? They're the 7th three-point shooting team in the league. And the Bulls are like 19th. And they were just filling it up in the first quarter. So I'm starting to think, look, is that because they're just bound and determined? They have an agenda. They want to prove something against the Clippers for whatever reason. Or are the Clippers not guarding the perimeter well enough? I mean, it could be one or the other, or it could be a little bit of both. So I feel like they're guarding the perimeter in the first half could definitely be better. That being said, in the second half, it was much better. So maybe they just don't care all that much, right? And when it comes to playoff time and when it comes to more important games, they will start to care more, right? This is the front end of a back-to-back tomorrow against the Milwaukee Bucks. A noon start. Brian Seaman was none too pleased with the league, and he's not wrong at all. The Clippers get screwed on a regular basis. First of all, about tomorrow, the Clippers play at noon tonight. I'm glad he reminded me of this, but tonight is daylight savings time, so we lose an hour. So the game is 1 hour earlier. Today started at 1, tomorrow starts at noon, and you lose an hour. So from tip to tip, it's 22 hours, which I guess is against NBA protocol. So they broke their own rule there, probably forgot about the daylight savings time thing, but that's just not fair. So tomorrow I'm going to have a completely different opinion about the Clippers. They can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned tomorrow. If they get smacked in the mouth and lose by 30, I'll find all the silver lining I can in that one, because I do not expect anything from them. Back-to-back day games is just rude. I mean, it's not fair at all. Here's another stat they threw out that is mind-boggling, and it is a reason, a main factor as to why the Clippers are getting their own building in the Intuit Dome next year. This will all change next year. We won't have to deal with this garbage any longer. It's really unfair. Brian Siemens seems to be the only one that's really upset about it. You don't ever hear about it from the team, probably rightfully so. But the Clippers have had in 4 years 32 games that start before 2 o'clock. 32 in 4 years. Second on that list, 16. I don't know who it was, but that team only had 16 games starting before 2 o'clock, and the Clippers have 32. They just absolutely get bent over at crypto.com. They take third fiddle there. I didn't realize it was third fiddle to the Kings, but it is. Obviously, Lakers are number 1. Kings are number 2. And the Clippers, number 3 on that list as far as priority. It seems to be a regular thing that they have these early games. I'm not all that surprised by that, but when you break it down and know the actual number, it's just unfair. Again, they figured out a way, played a great second half, and come out on top with the win. The final 112-102. Early in the game, they were passing the ball well. They had that pocket pass thing working. James Harden to Zubac, who had a fantastic game. Back to that stat about the threes, the numbers I threw out as far as rank was for defense. Clippers are 7th in the league in defense, and the Bulls were 19th in the league in defense, which it seemed like it was a flip-flop today, at least in the first half. Bulls played very good defense. It almost had that feeling like there was maybe 6 guys on the court with 3 arms apiece. Like the Clippers just had a tough time getting open looks, and then they'd go down to the other end, and the Clippers defense closing out was just not there. They would have all these open looks, and they were just banging down threes. Today, from beyond the arc for the Bulls, 13 of 35 for 37%. This guy White hit 3 threes. Seemed like a lot more. He had a nice day, 7 of 16 for 19 points. Vucevic, the former USC Trojan, had 22, and DeMar DeRozan had 24. It wasn't a big surprise to me that those two guys were going to have good days, because anytime somebody who goes to school, not anytime, but frequently, when somebody who goes to school in the area returns to play either the Lakers or the Clippers, they generally speaking go out and perform well. And that's what both DeRozan and Vucevic did, 2 former USC Trojans. Another thing that frustrated me about the defense was how they handled DeMar DeRozan, and we'll get into that a little bit more right after this quick break. All right, let's talk about eBay Motors, sponsor of the show today. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long, whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire. Every week, we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. Let's see who Josh has picked out for us this week. eBay's guaranteed fit fantasy pick of the week is Kyle Lowry. With the Anthony Melton sideline, Nick Nurse has been leaning on his veterans like Lowry, who's been getting extra minutes and doing very well in that time. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same goes for your vehicle, especially when something's clunking or something's not going right, something's not working the way it should. eBay Motors is there to help you out. I have personally purchased many parts on eBay Motors. The fit is always right, and I've also had very good luck finding unique and hard to find parts. I had this BMW that had a weird taillight, and I had to order it like 2 or 3 times from other places. Then I found it right away on eBay Motors. It was, and for some reason, I feel like I had to order it for both sides of the car. It was this weird thing, but the point is that eBay Motors had what I needed, and it did fit the car. And more importantly than anything, it saves you money. I've ordered brakes there many, many times. It's always like a third of what it costs you when you buy them at the auto parts store. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever you need, eBay has it for you, baby. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or you get your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay guaranteed fit only, available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, Clippers take care of business on the front end of another back-to-back, beating the Bulls in Chicago. I'm sorry, in LA, 112-102, outscoring them in the second half, 66-45. So a 21-point differential there in the second half for the Clippers. They went on some runs, 23-13 at one point, outscoring the Bulls early in the third. The defense improved, the turnovers improved. Zubac got going, I believe, 8 points in the third quarter, 2 of which came off of very pretty alley-oops. Kawhi had 6 in the third. Paul George had 8. So everybody in on the scoring. James Harden finished the day with a triple-double. There was a lot to feel good about in the second half for this game. As I said, one of the things that I feel like they could improve upon, and this is, again, another one of these double-edged swords with regard to defense. I feel like the Clippers have at times not done a good job when they have one guy on the opposition. DeMar DeRozan was that guy today, who is scoring at will from the same spot on the floor. DeMar DeRozan is a very, very productive. Everybody knows that he is a mid-range jump shooter, and he was scoring low on the post, that, 15 to 17 foot jumper from the baseline time after time after time in the first quarter, or the first half rather. And they weren't doing anything. They had, Norman Powell on him. They had guys that just were not able to guard him. And I'm like, okay, are they just saying, fine, let him get his points and that's fine as long as we stop everybody else, or are they just not doing a good job guarding the number one scorer on a team? I think they could definitely do better stopping a team's number one offensive threat. Like Amir Coffey guarding DeMar DeRozan, to me, is just not good. That's not smart. They could do better. So fortunately, in the second half, he cooled a little bit. I think some of that was defense. I think some of that was just, he couldn't keep that going. He had all in all, a good game. Again, finishing with 24 in 42 minutes, probably ran out of gas a little bit. I mean, he's been around for 15 years. Isn't that crazy? DeMar DeRozan's been in the league for 15 years. Vucevic also been around forever. Those two USC guys, both of which surprised me when they went to the NBA in the first place. That's when I was working at ESPN and covering USC basketball quite a bit. I mean, they were good players, but that team was not good at all. And I was totally surprised when they went and got drafted. I mean, the story about Vucevic, that's famous, right? He showed up at the draft and they're like, hi, can I help you? Who are you? And he's like, I'm Nikola Vucevic. I'm in the draft. They're like, you are? Okay. He had to sit in the audience, like just with the people watching the draft. He had to go buy his own suit at like Men's Warehouse or something. They had no idea who he was. And then he gets drafted and has had a very effective, fantastic career. So kudos to him for betting on himself. It was very nicely done. DeMar DeRozan, another guy, like I didn't think he was terrible. I was just, a little surprised that he was drafted in the first round as high as he was. Turns out that those guys knew better than I as to his talent level and what he was capable of, because he's been a fantastic player through his career. Anthony Caruso, another guy that LA people are very familiar with, had a nice game. It was good in the first quarter, first half, started to slow down by the second, but a very effective day, 4 of 7, 1-3 for 9 points, got a bunch of steals, 4 in all to lead the Bulls. So played defense, had 6 assists, just an impactful game, something that we would see from Russell Westbrook. And speaking of Russell Westbrook, they showed him a couple of times when his counterpart, who's been filling in for him, Bones Highland, got in there and was making buckets and playing defense, and just a great day for Bones Hyland. So let's get into the bucket list real quick because Bones is on it. In at number 5 on today's bucket list, Bones Hyland hitting his first 3 of the game. He was a perfect 3 for 3 from the floor today. All 3 were threes. It came at 1:15 of the first, and it made it 25-20 Bulls. So it got them to within 5. In at number 4, a corner 3 from Norman Powell off a turnover, which forced a timeout. And coming out of that timeout, we learned as the score was still it made it a 4-point deficit, but we looked at the scoreboard. It came right after a 3, and then the Bulls were up 10, and everyone was kind of confused doing the math there, and it didn't add up. Well, they called out of bounds on Norman's back heel, saying that he touched the out of bounds line before he shot that 3. Upon further review, his heel did not touch down. It hovered over the line. The best of my knowledge, it has to touch down. It does not, if it floats over the line, like in football, if it floats over the out of bounds line, that's okay. It's not out, but nonetheless, they blew that call and they called it out of bounds. So that is an erased number 4 from the bucket list as well. So number 4 would be a much needed 3 from James Harden at the 3:55 mark of the second. That made it 45-39. So to draw them within 6 once again. Then in the third quarter, Kawhi Leonard had a dunk on a nice pass from Harden. It forced a timeout, got the momentum rolling for the Clippers. It made it 67-63 Bulls. And then a short few minutes after that, not even a minute, I don't think, Kawhi some more points. I think it was another dunk or a short 2-pointer that tied the game at 67. So Kawhi really had some important buckets through that stretch right there in the third to tie the game. In at number 2 on today's bucket list, James Harden hit a 3 at the 4:55 mark of the third. That gave the Clippers the lead 72-71. Then a PG dunk less than a minute later at the 4:38 mark to make it 74-71. And number 1 today, the dagger. No, this was not a dagger. This was just very, very, very important. A Norman Powell 3 from the wing kept the momentum rolling for the Clippers as they started to pull away. This was 9:31 of the fourth. It made it 94-85. And at that point, everything was rolling, and we were thinking, this is good, but there's a long way to go. James Harden hit a 3 to ice it at about the 3-minute mark. That made it a 10-point advantage for the Clippers, 107-97. But again, Bulls were shooting the ball well from beyond the arc. 3 minutes to go, only down 10. I didn't feel like that was the dagger, but it turned out to be the bucket that iced it for the Clippers. Again, they win it by 10. 112-102. We will take our final break and come back and get to the superlatives and talk about some of the other things that went well for the Clippers in the fourth quarter. Thank you for joining me here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. It is Locked On Clippers Postcast, where after the game, we wrap up the game that just took place immediately following the final. All right, today's show also brought to you in part by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools that you need to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and free. My wife has used LinkedIn Jobs quite a bit more to get work than to find employees. But that's one of the great things about LinkedIn Jobs. It works both ways. If you have a business and you need people that are quality people to work for you, and it doesn't take you don't have a lot of time to do it, LinkedIn Jobs is very helpful. There's a lot of quality people there. And if you're looking for another new, different opportunity, you put up your resume at LinkedIn Jobs and you can find work rather quickly. LinkedIn Jobs isn't just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy that, in fact, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. And sometimes, you think, hey, I really need to hire somebody, but I don't have the time. Well, that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in handy. They make it very simple, very easy for you, and it's very reliable for small businesses, delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn Jobs, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedinjobs.com. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA for your jobs. You can post for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Clippers with another come from behind win, a 21-point turnaround in the second half, outscoring the Bulls in the second half by a tally of 66-45. They were getting steals in the fourth quarter. I love to see that. Norman Powell was making big threes, also very clutch. And the thing I probably enjoyed the most, and again, you could see it written on Westbrook's face a little bit. Maybe I was reading into it, but Bones Highland came out there and had very productive minutes. I was a little worried when James Harden, or rather Russell Westbrook, broke his hand, because he's been very, very important to this team from an energy perspective. And Bones Highland was playing a little bit the day he broke his hand and didn't look good. But the next time out, got a little better. Next time out, a little bit better. He's been improving, getting confidence each performance since Westbrook broke his hand, which I believe was 4 or 5 games ago now. So Bones Highland today was one you could not overlook. He was short minutes. He only played 13 minutes, but 3 of 3, you couldn't forget him. He was perfect from the floor. All 3 were threes, missed a free throw, but plus minus of +6, got a couple of rebounds. He got 3 steals. So just very active minutes on the floor. In 13 minutes, he had 10 points. So you love to see that. Norman Powell, another performance where he got things taken care of. I've mentioned his name a bunch of times today. He was 6 of 14 on the day, 2 of 9 from beyond the arc, perfect from the line, 4 rebounds for 18 points, a plus minus of 5. Did have 2 turnovers, unfortunately. But again, a lot of those threes for Norman Powell were clutch, big, needed threes. The guy that I probably was most impressed with, that was kind of my security blanket of this game, was Ivica Zubac. He was 7 of 9 in 25 minutes. He had 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 16 points, but they were all very clutch, very big points that the Clippers needed at that point in time. So a big performance from him. Kudos to him. The other thing that I thought the Clippers did really well, now I've just spent about 2 or 3 minutes complaining that I felt like they could have done a better job dealing with DeMar DeRozan. That was more of a general, hey, let's wake up and deal a little better with the team's leading scorer. All in all, when you look at their defensive performance on DeMar DeRozan and what he's been doing in the last 3 games leading into this one, the Bulls have been on a 3-game road trip. They have won all 3 of those games. During that 3-game winning streak, DeMar DeRozan shooting 60%, averaging 31.7 in those games, wins over the Warriors, the Jazz, and the Kings. 2 of the 3 of those very good teams playing very well right now. So when it was all said and done, DeRozan, 8 of 19, so a little under 50%, played 42 minutes, didn't hit a 3, which is not his game. That's all right. But he did have 24. So they kept him under the average of 31.7 very nicely. He had 10 assists, which was a big part of this game for the Bulls, and Vucevic, also a big game. Both scoring and distributing, rebounding. He had 22 points, 11 boards, and 2 assists. So not a big game distributing the ball. But I guess when you look at what the average has been over the last few games, you give the Clippers credit for keeping him under that number. He's been very, very hot. It's just early on, it gets frustrating. I guess ultimately, I think I need you guys to just calm me down a little bit in the comments that, hey, relax on getting upset when we fall behind by double digits in the first quarter or even in the first half. I guess I just need to accept that that's going to happen. I need to start placing wagers on that, like wait for halftime and then bet on the Clippers to win by double figures because it seems to be their MO of late. I mean, they, in the second half, they were 3 of 14 shooting from beyond the arc. And that's terrible. That's terrible. They finished 12 of 35 for 34%, which is, a little better. Let me see here. This is this question I wrote to myself during the game. Are the Clippers bad at defending the three, or do teams get hot? NBA rank. The Clippers rank 10th defending the three. So top third. Not great, not terrible. 35% is what the opponent shoots from beyond the arc. So what did the Bulls shoot today? 37%. So that's pretty close to their average. So I guess I should feel happy. And I guess I should feel like top 10 in the league is pretty good. Excuse me. Can't believe I made it 24 minutes without a cough. So I guess I should just be a little less critical, a little bit more forgiving, and a little bit more understanding that the Clippers are just not a good first half team. They are all about the second half. And I definitely appreciate a second half complete victory versus just the fourth quarter, which we've seen a lot of them recently. Excuse me again. I am stumbling to the finish line today. Unlike the Clippers, who finished strong. They were closing out nice in the fourth quarter. They were passing the ball well. I've said this over and over since I started doing the postcasts, that when the Clippers are passing the ball, moving the ball, and James Harden is passing the ball, here comes another cough. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have to wrap it up real quick here. When James Harden is distributing, the Clippers are good. And this was another one of those performances. He had a triple-double. I haven't given him enough love yet in this game, but let's do it right now. Finished with 14 points, 10 assists, and 11 boards. And when the Clippers get 10 assists or more out of James Harden, they're like 19-2. So a fantastic performance from him. Let's get to our superlatives here for a 112-102 win for the Bulls for the Clippers over the Bulls in downtown. We have 4 superlatives today on our list. A biggest impact of this game for me were 2 guys. Ivica Zubac, I thought, without him on the floor today, playing like he did, they don't win. Even though it wasn't a huge number, it was pretty big. 16 points, a plus or minus of 18, which was the highest on the floor for the Clippers. So best performance, or biggest impact rather, Ivica Zubac. And you can't overlook James Harden, as honorable mention, finishing with a triple-double, 14, 10, and 11. It wasn't a great percentage for him. He was 4 of 10, but meaningful buckets when they needed him in 34 minutes. And more importantly than anything, he only had 1 turnover, and the turnovers were definitely a problem for the Clippers in the first half. Fortunately, they cleaned it up rather nicely in the second. Just 3 turnovers in the second half after 10 in the first half. The clutchest performance today for the Clippers, in my opinion, was Norman Powell. Hit big threes when the Clippers needed him. He played 27 minutes. There was only 2 of those threes, but he had big shots, 6 of 14, so just under 50% for 18 points, a plus minus of +5. So the clutchest performance was Norman Powell. Most popular player on the floor tonight had to be PG-13. 40 minutes, 8 of 16, a couple of threes, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 9 assists. He had 22 points, 3 block shots, and 2 steals. Unfortunately, had 3 turnovers mixed in there, but we'll overlook that. A popular, fantastic performance for Paul George. And lastly, best dressed player, and I'm speaking of clothes. This has nothing to do with his performance, which was fine. Kawhi Leonard had some nice pink New Balance shoes on that I guess are a new release for the brand. And Kawhi was sporting them well. He looked very sharp in his pink New Balance basketball sneakers. A huge part of this win for the Clippers, as per usual. I had a friend say to me yesterday, who's not he's a big sports fan, but doesn't follow the Clippers all that much. He says, so what's going on? Is Kawhi back to his normal self? I said, yeah, pretty much. Kawhi's out there just about every night doing his thing and being a huge part for the Clippers. Very productive, very effective. And without him, they would definitely be a different team. So I guess that feels good all in all, that the productivity from Kawhi Leonard is very, very consistent. And he's really a huge part of what's going on with this team right now, almost on a nightly basis. Of course, he has an off night here and there, but we haven't seen it for about 3 or 4 games now. He's been very good for the last little stretch here, and I'm sure this will continue. They're going to need him tomorrow, another back-to-back in about 21 hours, 20 hours in that neighborhood. Don't forget to spring forward, move your clocks forward. We're going to lose an hour tonight. So that game starts at noon tomorrow, which will feel like 11. Clippers and Bucks in downtown LA at crypto.com. Hopefully they can get a little revenge on that loss they let slip through their fingers in Milwaukee on Monday. But if they get their butts kicked and they look tired and awful and run down and listless, I will be completely apologetic and accepting of their behavior after a very, very short window on back-to-back day games, which reportedly are very, very tough for the players. So we'll hope for the best and expect the worst. But today it was all good in the end. A 10-point victory, 112-102 over the Bulls. They're now 41-21, 22-8 on their home floor. The Bulls fall to 31-33, 15-18 away from United Center, and it snaps their 3-game winning streak. Again, I'm Pete Fox here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. I'll catch you tomorrow after Clippers and Bucks here for the Locked On Clippers postcast. Have a good afternoon and evening. I'll talk to you tomorrow.